People-pleasing often starts as an innocent desire to make others happy. It feels good to be helpful, to say yes, and to avoid conflict. But over time, this pattern of always putting others first becomes a trap. It's an exhausting, unfulfilling game where the rules constantly change and the prize is never within reach. The harsh truth is that no matter how much you do for others, you cannot please everyone. People-pleasing is a losing game. And here's why. When you base your actions on the desire to make others happy, you surrender control of your own life. Your decisions become reactive instead of intentional. You say yes when you want to say no. You take on commitments you don't have time for, often at the expense of your own priorities. The irony is that the more you try to accommodate others, the more you lose touch with what matters most to you. Your goals, your dreams, and even your well-being get pushed to the back burner, all in the name of avoiding disappointment or conflict. What's worse, people-pleasing rarely earns you the respect you think it will. Instead, it often leads to others taking you for granted. When you're always available, people assume you will always be there, no matter how inconvenient it is for you. They may not even realize they're overstepping because you've set the expectation that you'll always agree, always help, and never say no over time. This can lead to frustration, resentment, and burnout, not just for you, but for those around you. Relationships lose their balance when one person gives endlessly and the other receives without question. Then there's the emotional toll of people-pleasing. The constant effort to meet everyone else's needs leaves little room for your own. It creates an inner conflict because you're forced to suppress your true feelings and desires. You might feel unappreciated or even invisible, but instead of addressing it, you bury those emotions to keep the peace. This habit of self-denial chips away at your confidence and self-worth. Over time, you begin to feel like your value lies solely in what you can do for others rather than in who you are. People-pleasing also robs you of authenticity. When you mold yourself to fit what others expect, you lose the ability to be genuine. You might find yourself agreeing with opinions you don't believe in or pretending to be enthusiastic about something you don't care about. The fear of rejection or conflict can lead you to compromise your values, making it difficult to form meaningful, honest connections. Authentic relationships require honesty, and people-pleasing erodes that foundation. The truth is, trying to make everyone happy is not only impossible, it's unnecessary. The people who truly care about you don't need you to bend over backward to prove your worth. They value you for who you are, not for what you can do for them. And the people who expect you to always say yes or go above and beyond are often the ones who don't respect your boundaries in the first place. Chasing their approval is a never-ending race, one that leaves you depleted and unfulfilled. Breaking free from the cycle of people-pleasing starts with recognizing its futility. You have to understand that your worth isn't tied to how much you do for others. It's about embracing the idea that it's okay to disappoint people sometimes. Saying no doesn't make you selfish or unkind, it makes you honest. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out, it's about protecting your time, energy, and value so you can show up as your best self. When you stop trying to please everyone, something incredible happens. You reclaim your power. You start making decisions based on what's best for you, not what will make others happy. You focus on relationships that are built on mutual respect and understanding. You prioritize your goals and create a life that aligns with your values. The people who truly matter will respect your boundaries and appreciate your authenticity. And for the ones who don't, letting them go is not a loss, it's a gain. People-pleasing is a losing game because it asks you to sacrifice too much for too little. It drains your energy, undermines your confidence, and leaves you feeling unfulfilled. The path to genuine happiness and fulfillment lies not in trying to make everyone else happy, but in staying true to yourself. Respect isn't something you can demand, nor is it something you can buy or barter. It's earned. But here's the thing, respect doesn't come from being overly accommodating, endlessly agreeable, or constantly putting others before yourself. It comes from demonstrating strength of character, strength of conviction, and strength of purpose. People are drawn to those who know who they are and what they stand for. Strength, in this sense, doesn't mean being domineering or aggressive. It's not about forcing your will on others. True strength is quiet confidence. It's the ability to say no when something doesn't align with your values. It's the courage to set boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable. It's standing firm in your decisions, even when others try to sway you. When you're overly soft with others, you might think you're being kind, but often you're unintentionally teaching people that your time, energy, and feelings are negotiable. People take cues from your actions. If you're always the one to bend, compromise, or accommodate, others will begin to see you as someone who can be taken for granted. Not because they're bad people, but because you've shown them that it's okay to do so. Think about the most respected people in your life. Are they the ones who always say yes to everything, even at their own expense? Or are they the ones who can stand their ground with grace and firmness? Chances are, the people you admire most are those who balance kindness with strength, who know how to draw the line between helping others and sacrificing themselves. Strength inspires trust. When you show that you're not easily swayed, people begin to rely on you in a different way. They see you as dependable, as someone who values their own worth and priorities. That respect translates into stronger, healthier relationships, both personally and professionally. However, being strong doesn't mean being rigid or unkind. It's not about putting up walls and shutting people out. Strength without empathy becomes arrogance. And that's not what we're aiming for. The key is finding the balance, showing others that while you're open and willing to help, you won't do so at the expense of your values or well-being. When you practice strength in this way, you also teach people how to treat you. If you set clear boundaries, people begin to understand what's acceptable and what's not. If you prioritize your time and energy, others will learn to respect those priorities. It might be uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent years being the one who always says yes, but over time, this shift will transform the way people interact with you. Strength isn't just about what you say, it's about how you live. It's in the decisions you make every day. It's in how you handle adversity, how you manage your commitments, and how you balance the needs of others with your own. When you consistently act from a place of strength, you build a reputation that speaks for itself. People begin to see you as someone who is reliable, grounded, and worthy of their respect. The truth is, no one respects a pushover. They may like you, they may even appreciate your willingness to go along with things, but they won't respect you. Respect comes from showing that you're not afraid to take a stand, that you value yourself enough to set limits. And the beautiful thing is, when you earn respect, it often deepens the connections you have with others. By being strong, you encourage others to bring their best selves to the table. You inspire those around you to think more deeply about their own values and boundaries. And you create a foundation for relationships that are built on mutual respect, not just convenience or obligation. Strength is a gift you give to yourself and to others. It's a declaration that your time, energy, and dignity matter. And when you live with that strength, you create a life where respect flows naturally because you've shown the world how to treat you. Every decision we make in life involves a trade-off. And one of the most significant yet often overlooked trade-offs happens when we say yes to others at the expense of our own needs. On the surface, saying yes may feel like the right thing to do. It's polite, accommodating, and keeps the peace. But if saying yes comes at the cost of neglecting your own priorities, goals, or well-being, it's time to rethink the equation. When you constantly say yes to others, you are, in effect, saying no to yourself. That's because time, energy, and focus are finite resources. Every task you take on for someone else is time that could have been spent on something meaningful to you. It's easy to justify small sacrifices in the name of being helpful, but over time, these small sacrifices add up. And you may find yourself living a life driven by other people's agendas instead of your own. Think about how often you agree to things out of obligation rather than genuine desire. It could be staying late at work because a colleague asked for help, even though you had planned to spend the evening with your family. Maybe it's agreeing to a favor for a friend, knowing it will push your own deadlines into chaos. These choices might feel harmless in the moment, but they chip away at your ability to focus on what truly matters. Saying yes to everyone can lead to burnout, frustration, and even resentment. When you overextend yourself, you not only compromise your own happiness, but also diminish the quality of your contributions. You can't give your best to others when you're running on empty. What's more, when people see you as someone who always says yes, they may begin to take your time and energy for granted, making ever-increasing demands without considering the toll it takes on you. It's crucial to understand that saying no isn't about being selfish or unkind. It's about being intentional. It's about valuing your own time and priorities enough to protect them. People who truly care about you will respect your boundaries, and those who don't probably don't deserve your constant yes in the first place. Saying no to what doesn't serve you creates space for what does. Time to pursue your goals, nurture your relationships, and recharge your energy. The challenge for many is overcoming the guilt that often accompanies saying no. We've been conditioned to think that turning someone down makes us unhelpful or uncaring. But consider this: saying yes when you really want to say no is a form of dishonesty. It's not fair to yourself, and it's not fair to the other person, who may misinterpret your compliance as genuine enthusiasm. By learning to say no with kindness and clarity, you're fostering healthier, more honest relationships. To break the habit of reflexive yeses, start by examining your values and priorities. What matters most to you? What are the goals you want to achieve, the relationships you want to nurture, and the boundaries you need to maintain to feel your best? When someone makes a request, pause and ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does it support my goals? Am I in a position to help without compromising myself? If the answer is no, then it's okay, necessary, even to decline. Saying no doesn't have to be harsh or confrontational. A simple, polite refusal can go a long way. I appreciate you asking, but I'm not able to take that on right now. Or thank you for thinking of me, but I need to focus on other commitments. These responses are firm but respectful, setting a clear boundary without damaging relationships. Remember, every no you say to someone else is a yes to yourself. It's a yes to your goals, your dreams, and your well-being. It's a yes to the relationships and commitments that truly matter. And most importantly, it's a yes to living a life that's authentically yours. Kindness is a beautiful quality. It has the power to heal wounds, build bridges, and create a sense of connection in a world that often feels divided. But kindness, when misunderstood or misapplied, can lose its strength. Without boundaries, it can become a source of frustration, exhaustion, and even resentment. When we extend kindness without limits, we risk depleting ourselves, enabling unhealthy behavior in others, and failing to maintain the balance necessary for meaningful relationships. Imagine kindness as a resource, like water in a pitcher. The pitcher has a finite amount of water, and every time you pour into someone else's cup, the level in your pitcher decreases. If you keep pouring without taking the time to refill, eventually you'll run dry. And when you're empty, you can't help anyone, not even yourself. Boundaries are what allow you to refill your pitcher while still sharing generously with others. They act as the framework that ensures your kindness remains sustainable and effective. When you lack boundaries, your kindness can be taken for granted. People might assume you'll always be available to help, always willing to say yes, and always ready to sacrifice your own needs for theirs. Over time, this can create an imbalance in relationships. Instead of mutual respect and appreciation, you may find yourself in a dynamic where your efforts are undervalued or, worse, expected. The problem isn't your kindness, it's the absence of limits that protect both you and the people you're trying to help. Without boundaries, kindness can also lead to enabling. By always saying yes or always accommodating others, you might inadvertently support behaviors that aren't beneficial. For instance, if a friend constantly relies on you to bail them out of trouble, your endless support might prevent them from taking responsibility for their actions. True kindness sometimes requires saying no, not out of spite or selfishness, but because it encourages growth and accountability in others. It's not about turning your back on people, it's about helping them in a way that fosters independence rather than dependence. Another challenge of boundary-less kindness is the impact it has on your mental and emotional well-being. Constantly putting others' needs before your own can lead to burnout, frustration, and a sense of being unappreciated. It's natural to want to give, but when giving comes at the expense of your own peace and happiness, it's no longer an act of love, it's a sacrifice that can breed resentment. When you set boundaries, you protect your energy and ensure that your kindness comes from a place of abundance, not depletion. Boundaries do not diminish kindness, they amplify it. They ensure that your acts of generosity are intentional and meaningful. When you say yes because you genuinely want to, rather than because you feel obligated, your kindness becomes more impactful. It's not a hollow gesture made out of guilt or fear. It's a deliberate choice that reflects your values and priorities. People can sense the difference, and they're more likely to appreciate and respect the kindness you offer when it comes from a place of authenticity. Learning to set boundaries is not always easy, especially if you've spent much of your life being the person who always says yes. It might feel uncomfortable at first, and some people may react negatively when you start to assert yourself. But remember, boundaries are not about rejecting others, they're about protecting what matters most to you. They create a foundation of mutual respect, where your kindness is given freely and not taken for granted. In the end, kindness without boundaries can lead to chaos for you and for those you're trying to help. Boundaries are the structure that keeps your kindness focused and effective. They allow you to give without losing yourself, to help others without enabling harmful patterns, and to create relationships based on respect rather than expectation. True kindness isn't about being everything to everyone, it's about being your best self for those you choose to serve. The journey to developing strength in setting boundaries and standing firm doesn't happen overnight. It's not about making grand, sweeping declarations or suddenly cutting people off. It's about taking small, deliberate steps that build your confidence and establish your values. This process may feel uncomfortable at first, but like any skill, it grows with practice and consistency. Start by identifying the situations where you feel most overwhelmed or taken advantage of. Perhaps it's at work, where you're constantly asked to take on tasks outside your responsibilities. Maybe it's in your personal life, where friends or family expect you to drop everything to accommodate their needs. Pinpointing these areas helps you understand where your boundaries are weakest and where change is most needed. Once you know the situations that challenge you, practice saying no in low-stakes scenarios. For example, if a coworker asks you to attend a meeting you're not required to be in, politely decline. Use simple, clear language like "I can't attend, but let me know if you need a summary." These small acts of asserting yourself may feel insignificant, but they are building blocks. Each time you stand up for yourself, you reinforce your ability to do so in more significant situations. It's also important to prepare for pushback. People who are used to you being agreeable may react negatively when you begin to set limits. This is normal, and it's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. Instead of retreating back into old habits, remind yourself why you're making these changes. Each no you say is not just a rejection of someone else's request, it's an affirmation of your own priorities and self-respect. One way to strengthen this process is by practicing self-awareness. Pay attention to how you feel when you agree to something you didn't want to do. Do you feel frustrated, resentful, or drained? Those emotions are signals from your inner self, reminding you that your needs are being ignored. Use these feelings as motivation to continue strengthening your boundaries. Over time, you'll notice a shift when you respect your limits. Those feelings of frustration and resentment start to fade, replaced by a sense of empowerment and control. It's also crucial to be kind to yourself as you navigate this change. Setting boundaries and stepping into your strength can feel intimidating, especially if you've spent years being soft with everyone. Understand that there will be missteps along the way. You might say yes when you meant no or overcommit out of habit. Instead of beating yourself up, view these moments as learning experiences. Reflect on what happened and decide how you'll handle similar situations in the future. Another effective step is to surround yourself with people who respect your growth. When you're around individuals who value your time and decisions, it reinforces your ability to maintain boundaries. Conversely, distance yourself from those who guilt or manipulate you into compromising your values. Sometimes the act of stepping back from unhealthy relationships is itself a small but powerful step toward building strength. Remember, this process is not about being rigid or unkind. It's about creating a balanced life where you can give to others from a place of fullness, not exhaustion. By taking small, consistent steps, you gradually transform how you interact with the world. Each time you practice standing firm, you're sending a message not just to others, but to yourself that your time, energy, and well-being are valuable. The key is patience. Strength doesn't appear instantly, it's the result of consistent effort over time. Like a muscle that grows with each workout, your ability to stand up for yourself and prioritize your needs will grow stronger with each decision you make. In the end, these small steps lead to significant changes, empowering you to live a life that reflects your values and priorities while fostering relationships built on mutual respect. Self-respect is the foundation upon which all healthy relationships and personal growth are built. It sets the tone for how you allow others to treat you and, more importantly, how you treat yourself. When you respect yourself, you communicate to the world that your time, energy, and values are not only important but non-negotiable. It's a standard that others either rise to meet or fail to meet, and that distinction makes all the difference in your personal and professional life. The first step to cultivating self-respect is understanding your worth. This isn't about arrogance or self-centeredness. It's about recognizing that you have inherent value simply because you exist. When you internalize this truth, you begin to approach life differently. You stop apologizing for who you are and you start standing firm in your convictions. People who lack self-respect often find themselves in a cycle of saying yes to everyone, overcommitting, and feeling drained. Why? Because they're seeking validation from external sources rather than valuing themselves intrinsically. When you respect yourself, you establish boundaries not to shut others out, but to protect what's important to you. Boundaries are a clear way of saying, this is what I will and will not accept. They aren't about being unkind, they're about being clear. For instance, if someone repeatedly disrespects your time by showing up late or canceling last minute, self-respect gives you the confidence to address it. You're not afraid of losing their approval because you understand that their behavior says more about them than it does about you. People often confuse self-respect with selfishness, but the two couldn't be more different. Self-respect is rooted in a healthy sense of self-worth, while selfishness disregards the needs of others entirely. When you respect yourself, you actually have more to give to the people around you. Why? Because you're not operating from a place of resentment or exhaustion. By taking care of your needs first, you're better equipped to show up fully for others. It's like the age-old airplane advice, put your own oxygen mask on first before helping those around you. Another critical aspect of self-respect is accountability. Respecting yourself means being honest about your own behavior and taking responsibility for your actions. It's about recognizing when you've fallen short of your own standards and making the effort to do better. This kind of self-awareness fosters growth and integrity, both of which are essential for building trust with others. The beautiful thing about self-respect is that it's contagious. When you carry yourself with dignity and confidence, people notice. They may not articulate it, but they'll feel it. This often leads to deeper, more meaningful connections because you're engaging with others from a place of authenticity and strength. You're no longer seeking approval. Instead, you're inviting others to meet you at your level. Of course, not everyone will appreciate or understand your boundaries, and that's okay. Some people may push back, criticize you, or even drift away. This can be uncomfortable, but it's a necessary part of the process. Letting go of relationships that don't honor your self-respect creates space for those that do. Cultivating self-respect also has a ripple effect on your goals and aspirations. When you respect yourself, you stop settling for less than you deserve. You're more likely to pursue opportunities that align with your values and passions rather than compromising for the sake of convenience or fear of failure. This shift in mindset can be transformative, opening doors to success and fulfillment that once seemed out of reach. Ultimately, self-respect is about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you're willing to tolerate. It's about valuing yourself enough to demand the best, not just from others, but from yourself. When you set the standard for how you want to be treated, you empower others to meet it. And if they don't, you have the confidence to walk away, knowing that your worth isn't dependent on anyone else's opinion. Respecting yourself isn't always easy, especially in a world that often prioritizes external validation over internal alignment. But the rewards are immeasurable. When you live with self-respect, you live with clarity, confidence, and peace. You become the architect of your own life, building relationships and opportunities that reflect your true worth. And in doing so, you inspire others to do the same.